Story 1. Update: my 22 male fiancé, 21 female caught up with a friend and began to question our engagement. Original post: hey all, my fiancé didn't physically cheat on me, but she became emotionally invested with a guy she used to have feelings for. In November, I discovered that she was sending him selfies of her outfits for work, photos of what we were doing such as carving pumpkins for Halloween, and texting non-stop throughout the workday, mainly about pointless stuff. One night she asked me if we could watch a show on Netflix, which I later found out he was mentioning in their conversation. The last message he sent revealed how he felt for my fiancé, and it said, "It's in your court now." My fiancé responded with something like, "Oh wow, that's a lot to take in. I need to figure out what I'm doing here, but until then we shouldn't talk." She then took a screenshot of the convo and sent it to her best friend, who said, "Whoa, what are you going to do?" This is not the first time that she messaged this guy. Last year she was catching up with him too, and she told him she liked him, but is with me and thought her feelings were wrong. I found out about the text. She turned off notifications for his messages on iMessage and Facebook. I confronted her. She said she knew it would hurt me, but she did it anyway. I asked for the ring back, went to my parents for a week. After talking to friends, he told me to end it since this wasn't the first time. I said I have to give it one final chance and see what she does, and we've been trying to work things through since I am seeing a counselor, and so is she. We want to do couples therapy, but want to figure out what we want first. We talked about this again last night, and she said that she never flirted with him, yet she admitted she may have a little bit when I found out. I feel like I'm running in circles with her. I'm stress eating, grinding my teeth, and struggling to forgive. This wasn't the first time with this guy, and she said it wouldn't happen again last time. I'm scared for her future, and she's always saying she loves me. I feel like it's because she got caught though and almost lost me. Any advice is welcome. I am scared this would have led to physical cheating at some point. Now for the comments before reading the update. So this person says, emotional affair is cheating. Dude, your fiancé is not marriage material. She failed miserably at that. Don't marry this person because heartbreak and misery is coming. Do it now before kids are involved. This person says, that's a bit harsh. I did something similar, and I know it's completely my fault. I thought lying was okay because there was no physical affair. My ex keeps telling me I was lying to myself, but maybe I was. But somehow in my pea-brain I felt that there was no real harm or foul. I was selfish and I destroyed my marriage. By the time it clicked, she had moved on and was just waiting me out. This person also says not okay. She lied and tried to hide it and then was caught. She has already practiced this behavior in the past with the same person, no less. Why is she even in contact with him in the first place? 100% the wrong she is. He, the app, doesn't care. He just wanted to prove he can play with her and boost his ego. He is gonna tap that for a bit, then push her over for a new one. The second he said ball is in your court, she should have told him to go F himself, but she didn't. She is for the streets where she shall dwell. And this is the op saying, thank you all. I have read all the comments and I agree with everything that you've all said. While it is tough, you're all right. I have a pretty safe bet, and she has gone behind my back numerous times. This is very similar to a relationship that I had in high school, and I keep getting the same vibes. I want to dive in, and I'm thankful for the input. Let's hope we all find someone we deserve soon. Edit. I can no longer comment on the post. Too many replies, I guess. I've read everyone's comments thus far. Thank you all for the words of encouragement and support. To those that reached out in the DMs, thank you as well. Now for the updates. Update 1. Thank you all for the advice. I know many of you said I would not take it, but I did. Yesterday I went on my ex's computer and found a conversation from a year ago with her friend that I did not know about. Talking about dreams, weird flirty banter, and discussions about pop culture that I thought I got her into. Hindsight, it all lines up. She knew in 2019 that there was something there and was not sure how she felt then. We were still dating at that point and not engaged. I also found out that she wanted to break up with me 4 weeks ago. She also broke my boundary of social distancing and saw a friend who has been in contact with someone with COVID. Opinions aside, she never told me and my family had a few high-risk people. We talked last night. I told her about my new findings and said it was over. She needs to explore her feelings for the other guy who looks half as good as me and is nowhere near financially stable. She agreed and I got the ring back. After lots of tears, I started to discuss the lease and finances. She's SHTing bricks since 80% of her things are mine or my family's, and she's been using my car and relied on me to get her apartment. Even with a roommate, she will struggle. I wish nothing bad to happen to her, but she should have thought about all that before questioning our relationship. I have to quarantine until I can move back into my parents for now. It's a weird limbo. It sucks, but I see the light at the end. I'm sad about the good memories, but know if this didn't happen, she'd explore feelings with other guys. If we did get married, have a great boss who told me to take the next few days off and great friends who had been talking me through this. I'm thankful for COVID as it's caused a delay in our wedding, which would have been 1 week before D-Day. Thank you for the support, Reddit. We all know we deserve better, and I know there's someone out there who will love me unconditionally. Now time to heal, peace and love. Update 2, been a while since my last post. Wanted to drop an update and show it gets better. Our apartment lease ended last month. We were able to break the lease with little to no penalty. It was a huge breath of fresh air once that all settled. She took most of her things and left a little bit of a mess, but hey, it all worked out. We have been 90% no contact since, only talking about lease updates and arranging pickups for personal belongings. This was the best way to go. It got difficult at times, but it has allowed me to focus on growing myself more. I'm really excited to start this new chapter. My savings have already increased tremendously, and I only took a $3,000 or so hit on the wedding and engagement stuff. A small price to pay in the scheme of a life, a lot cheaper than a divorce. I'm working out again, getting back into my old hobbies, enjoying time with my family, and hope to get back into meeting people once COVID dissipates. Better yet, got news of a new promotion at work. Once you get out of the fog, it's amazing how things can turn around. If you're young and not married, I cannot stress this enough. Move on. It has been so much better in 2 months by ending things than the 2 months of trying to fix things. Thanks for all the support in this thread. My heart goes out to all of you who are struggling through infidelity. I hope my story can show you the hope you need, and always feel free to reach out. Cheers. Also, side note, how long did those who started dating take to make that jump? I know it differs from person to person, but I'm curious to hear about your timelines. I for one think 6 months after D-Day in my circumstance is sufficient. I'm feeling confident about things but want to focus on myself for a while longer. Edit. Someone asked about the car situation right before we broke up. She was driving my car. She got into an accident, no one was hurt. The insurance company gave me a nice check for the total loss. She wasn't at fault. So I went and bought the car we had been looking at getting after our wedding. She was not happy when she found out. Update 3. Hey everyone, it's officially been over a year since D-Day. I cannot thank this community enough, as I would not have gotten to where I am without you all. I want to use this post as a way to show you all things can get better if you desire. I have not talked to my ex since her lease ended. The distance was the best thing that I could have done. It helped me get over things quickly. I highly recommend doing this. Stand your ground. If you're getting walked on, have a backbone. I finally did, and it felt amazing. After your breakup, take chances. Within 3 months I had a new job that I would have been unmotivated to take if I was in my past relationship. I reconnected with friends, hung out with family, and started new hobbies like hiking. Make new personal goals. You're no longer part of a team, so now you need to make goals for your future. For me, that was financial and career. I'm happy to say that. I've exceeded these expectations and will continue to do so in 2022. Lastly, take time to heal. I used a therapist to help, which was amazing. I recovered and eventually felt ready to dip my toes into the water of dating again. I've since found a wonderful girl who I would never appreciate as much as she deserves without my past history. We are all on this journey together, but I want to say in most cases it will get better. Much love to this support group. You all are amazing people. I hope we can all leave this thread someday, heal and find the love we deserve. I believe because I can see our future days. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband he has to wait to get a heart transplant? Original post, please bear with me as there is a lot of information. My husband, age 46, and I, 42, female, have been married for 16 years and have 2 kids, ages 13 and 10. He was born with a heart defect and has seen a cardiologist since the age of 20. Last night he had a heart attack. He collapsed right in front of the kids and me at the park. His heart stopped and I had to do CPR while my kids watched. Thankfully, he started breathing again by the time the ambulance arrived. He was in a coma for 3 days, and the only reason he survived is thanks to a device called LVAD, which is basically a machine that pumps his blood. The device is attached to his heart and is powered by batteries. A cable comes out of his torso and is attached to a controller, which in turn connects to batteries that he carries in a bag and have to be changed every 12 to 15 hours. At night, the controller connects to a long cable that plugs into the wall outlet. I happen to think this is a miracle of modern medicine. He thinks it's annoying because the bag is bulky and he had to give up swimming because the cable can't get wet. At first, the doctors wanted to do a heart transplant, but decided he wasn't strong enough to withstand that surgery. The average recovery time for a heart transplant is 3 months compared to 3 weeks for an LVAD surgery. During this time, he needs a full-time caretaker and he has to relocate closer to the hospital because he would have weekly appointments. He will eventually need a transplant, but he can live with the LVAD for years. However, we received extensive information about both procedures. Back to the current problem. 3 days ago, I got a call from the hospital to schedule an appointment to meet with a social worker and go over everything I need to know as the caretaker of a transplant recipient. I was completely confused. Based on everything I learned in the past year, I know this is one of those last steps before adding someone to the list within days, and because of his blood type, he would probably get a heart within 2 months. I was livid. My husband started the process without talking to me. I asked if there is any risk of heart failure if we wait a little longer. She said there is no risk as long as he takes care of himself. She also said on average people keep the LVAD for 7 years before getting a new heart. I thanked the social worker and said I'd call her back. The hospital where he would get the transplant is 5 hours away from our home. As I mentioned before, the recovery time is about 3 months. He needs a caretaker with him 24/7, and he has to be within 1 hour of the hospital in case of an emergency. That evening after dinner, I asked him why he hadn't told me that he was planning to get the transplant soon. His answer floored me. Do I have to ask for your permission? I'm the one having surgery. Don't I get to decide when it happens? I asked him who his caretaker was. He looked at me like I was an idiot and said, "Are you saying you won't do it? You're my wife?" I then asked him who was going to take care of her children for 3 months. He suggested they come with us. I reminded him of a few minor problems that he probably hadn't thought about. I need to get a leave of absence from work, and this is our busiest time of the year. We have no support system as our families live in a different state. The children have school. I can't take care of him properly if I also have to take care of our kids. We would need to pay rent for an apartment close to the hospital while also paying for a mortgage. Not to mention that our 13-year-old is in therapy for acute depression and suicidal ideation, which started after the heart attack. Missing therapy for 3 months could be detrimental to his mental health. I told him something this huge needs to be planned. If he can wait until next summer, my sister, who is a teacher, can come and stay with her kids. We can save some money in the meantime, and I can give my work advance notice so I don't need to leave anything pending. I also reminded him that there is no rush. The LVAD is working fine. He got angry at me and told me I just can't understand how annoying it is to deal with the batteries. I tried to remain calm and said, "You're right, I don't understand what you have to go through, and I get that you have to take care of yourself. But I have to take care of all four of us, so I'm asking you to deal with the annoyance for 6 more months, so I can come up with a plan that will be best for everyone. He got really angry and started yelling at me, saying I was being selfish, only thinking about what was more convenient for me. He asked, "Why are you trying to stop me from getting a surgery that will save my life? Do you want me to die?" I swear I felt my love and respect for him die a little. I was done being nice. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. I simply looked at him and said, "You're the one who's selfish. I can deal with you putting your needs ahead of mine, but not ahead of the needs of your children, and you're not dying. So stop being so dramatic. You expect me to drop everything to take care of you because I'm your wife. But it never occurred to you to include your wife in the decision-making process. When you refused to give me a say, you refused the respect you owed me as your wife." He just stood there literally shaking with anger. His fists were clenched, his face was red, and he refused to look at me. I said, "You have 2 choices. Either you wait 6 months so I can figure out a plan, or you find another caretaker and have your surgery whenever you want. Then after your transplant you can either treat me with respect, you owe me, or we get a divorce." As I walked away I added, "And if I wanted you to die, I wouldn't have saved your life at the park last year." I went upstairs to our bedroom, and a few minutes later I heard him leave the house. He didn't come home that night and has been ignoring my calls and texts. Yesterday I texted him asking him to let me know if he's okay before I report him missing. He texted back, "I'm alive." But he still hasn't come home. I know he came by while I was at work because his LVAD stuff is gone along with some clothes and toiletries. I honestly don't know who he is anymore, but I know my kids are heartbroken because he hasn't even called them. I'm pretty sure my marriage is over, and I keep asking myself if I overreacted, but I don't think I did, so am I the a-hole? Now for the updates. Update 1. I posted this at midnight trying to get some perspective, and boy did I. It is now 8 a.m. and my life has changed forever. Thank you to all who posted here, the supportive comments, the ones bashing me, they all have helped in some way. I've never been called selfish before. It was a new experience. I haven't slept at all. I'm exhausted and completely defeated. Around 5 a.m., I get a message on Reddit. It said, "Hi, this is Shelly, Tom's wife." Not real names. Tom is my husband's friend from work, the one he's always playing golf with. Shelly tells me she saw that I was on Reddit and asked if we could meet for breakfast. I explain that my kids are on winter break and we have plans. She insists, saying that she really needs to talk to me. My kids are sleeping, I can't meet her, so she offers to come to my house. Shelly and I have never spent time together, even though our husbands are friends. But she keeps insisting, so I agree and I give her my address. When she gets to my house, she's super nervous. She tells me she read my post on Reddit and she figured out it was me. I invited her inside, but she said that she didn't want to wake up the kids and asked if we could talk outside even though it's like 50 degrees. We walked to the backyard and I lit up candles and turned on the fireplace my husband built in the backyard. She wastes no time and tells me that my husband is cheating on me with a woman he met at the gym. I'm so exhausted from the sleepless night and the emotional shredding I experienced on Reddit that I have no reaction. She tells me that she and Tom go to the same gym and Tom convinced my husband to join 2 months after the heart attack. If you read all or most of my posts, you'll know that's when he stopped spending time with his family. My husband lost a lot of weight in the hospital and his wedding ring was loose and he didn't want to lose it, so he stopped wearing it. Apparently he charmed her, lied to her, and started dating her. She had no idea he was married, and she was awed by the story of the heart attack and the LVAD. He conveniently left out the part where his wife administered CPR. By this point I'm so confused and ask Shelly what she's getting out of this. I don't know her. Does she hate me because my husband told her about the other day? She tells me that she can call Jen and have her come over with proof. So I agree. 10 minutes later, this perky blonde in her mid-20s with a blonde ponytail gets out of the car in front of my house. Her eyes are red and swollen, and she immediately starts crying and saying, "I'm sorry, I didn't know." She shows me her phone picture after picture of this girl with my husband. Some of them with her heads on pillows, mussed hair, and both obviously topless. Then she moves on to the text and I want to throw up. The person doing the teaching mentioned that it's normal for a person's sex drive to decrease after surgery. In some cases, ED can be an issue, most likely temporary, but everyone is different. My husband and I have always had a healthy, satisfying sex life. Even after 15 years of marriage, we had sex several times a week, sometimes every day. About a month after he came home, I tried to initiate sex, and he apologized but said he wasn't ready. I didn't push. I tried a couple more times, and he felt bad, so I told him to not worry about it. I could wait until he was ready. 13 months later, I find out he's been screwing this 26-year-old personal trainer. How effing cliché. With every picture, every text, I felt like I was being stabbed in the stomach. But the blow to the heart came with a message from about 2 months ago when he started calling and telling her that he was ready for the transplant. He told her, not his wife. Some of you suggested that he was terrified of his life depending on a machine, or that PTSD was so severe. He was afraid of dying of a complication with LVAD. Her next text read, "OMG baby, that's awesome. You were so against it before, what made you change your mind?" Yes, I'm pretty enough to include her ridiculous grammatical errors. He replied, "I'm sick and tired of this thing bag weighing me down. It makes me look old and sick." She said, "No it doesn't. I don't care about a stupid bag, you're super hot." His answer, "It gets in the way when I F you." That's when I started sobbing, not because of the message, but because of the date. He sent her that text the day my son attempted suicide the second time. I was in the hospital ICU, watching my son in a bed, wrist bandage, blood dripping into his veins, praying for God to not take my son away from me, and my husband was at home, supposedly taking care of my daughter and cleaning up the blood in my son's rim, probably laying in her bed or sitting on the couch where we made out the week before, and he's sexting his girlfriend. The next day my son opened his eyes and asked for his dad. I called him and told him our boy was awake and wanted to see him. He was out of breath, told me he was walking into an early meeting and he was late, that he would stop by after work. What did their text say? She sent him a picture of herself, her breasts uncovered to show a hickey the size of a grape. "I like it when the bag slaps my leg, so kinky." He replied, "I wish I was there right now. I'll stop by tomorrow on my way to work. Maybe I'll call in sick." She replied with peach and eggplant emojis. I did throw up then. I asked her for more details about his transplant. He told her he couldn't stand his mom, so his sister was going to take care of him. She didn't have a husband or children or a life, so she could take care of him. When Jen offered to take care of him, he told her he didn't want her to see him at his worst. But 3 days ago he came over with an overnight bag and asked if he could stay with her and started hinting that maybe it would be better if she takes care of him after the surgery. I turned to Shelley and asked her how long she had known. It seems like she saw the post and made a comment to Tom. That's when Tom said it sounded similar to his friend's situation, and he told her everything. She started crying because when my husband was playing golf with Tom, Tom was fishing with my husband. After reading that my husband couldn't go fishing, she realized Tom is lying to her. But she has known Jen for a long time, so she called her to tell her the truth. I asked Jen what she was going to do. In front of me, she texted my husband, "You're a lying, cheating piece of SHT. Don't ever contact me again." Her phone started ringing immediately, and she blocked him. Then she agreed to go with me when I meet with a divorce lawyer. She promised to give me all the texts and pictures and give a statement if needed. Jen apologized again and again, and she and Shelley finally left. Shelley also promised to give a statement after my kids had breakfast. My phone rang. I wanted to throw it in the garbage disposal, but I answered. My husband started apologizing profusely, saying I was right, that he could wait the 6 months and he wanted to come home to his family. I told him to stop by after work. So I have about 9 hours to pack up his SHT and leave it outside the front door with screenshots of their text messages. He'll have no idea and no choice but to accept his parents' help now, and I hope to goodness he has the decency to try to mend his relationship with his children. That's the only chance I'm willing to give him. I'm sorry that this was so long. I'm absolutely drained, but oddly at peace. So many things make sense, and now I'm going to take my kids to a movie. Second update. After I told the cheating dick Ed he could come over after work, I started packing up all of his stuff. While clearing out his closet, I found a shoebox with some interesting items. A pink thong with what looks like a dried semen, pictures of Jin naked and asleep, and I don't know if she's posing, or he took them without her knowledge, and a nice bundle of notes she wrote him over the last 8 months. They're signed and dated. Around 1 p.m., I got a text from CD, saying he was on his way home, and asking if the kids could go to the neighbors so we could talk. Fortunately, the kids were already there. CD came in and walked straight to me with his arms open. I avoided him and walked around the kitchen island to stay out of his reach. He actually looked hurt. I asked why he wasn't at work, and he said he felt so terrible about the way that he yelled at me the other night. He left work early to come to talk to me. He said he loves me so much. He loves his family and is terrified of losing us. He knows he shouldn't have gone behind my back to start the process of adding his name to the transplant list. He just wanted to get rid of the batteries because they were always in his way. I said we have had so many conversations about this in the past year. You decided you didn't want the transplant. You decided you were going to keep the LVAD for a couple of years. Instead of going behind my back, why didn't you come to me so that we could make a plan together? He said he thought I'd be okay with it since we've done it before. Bull. We've never made major decisions without talking it through, or at least I haven't. I told him, you know what, it doesn't matter. In the past couple of days, I've realized that we want very different things in the future. I have sensed a major shift in our relationship, and I honestly don't believe our marriage can be saved. I waited a few seconds, but he didn't say anything. I found a petition for a divorce forum online and would like us to go over it and try to agree on stuff. That way we can avoid expensive lawyers. He went from looking contrite to furious. He started yelling at me saying, if you think you can get rid of me, you are out of your effing mind. I reminded him that he just apologized for yelling at me and now he was doing it again. He continued yelling EFF that and EFF you. What about our vows? What about in sickness and in health? I looked at him and asked, what about forsaking all others? Who broke their vows first? The look on his face would have been funny if I wasn't so scared of him. He called me a bee and stormed out of the house. Before this week, he had never yelled at me, never directed profanities at me, never called me names. I tried to calm down so that the kids wouldn't see me so upset when they came back. About 30 minutes after CD left, I get a message from Shelly. She said Jen really needed to talk to me and gave me both their cell phone numbers. I called Jen. She was crying and told me CD came to her apartment and was begging her to open the door so that they could talk. He said that he loves her, apologized for lying to her about being married, but swore that his marriage was over long ago, and the only reason he stayed married to me was for the kids. When he saw that she wasn't budging, he started sobbing uncontrollably and asked her for another chance. He told her he's filing for a divorce on Monday so that they can get married once it's final. Jin told him she can't trust anything he says. How can you tell someone you love them and lie to them for months? She asked him to leave. He asked if he can call her. She said no. She's telling me all this while on her way out the door. I can hear her whisper, "What the F?" I asked her what was wrong, and she said CD was sitting in his car crying. I stayed on the phone with her until she got back into her car and drove away. I took the kids to dinner, and we had a great time. When we got home, they wanted to read, so they went to their rooms. I got a big glass of wine and sat down with my own book. I got a text from Jen saying CD approached her at the gym and went from "please baby give me another chance" to "are you flirting with that effort to make me jealous?" Jen admitted that she's scared of him and is thinking about getting a restraining order. She's going to unblock his number so that she can have more proof of his harassment. Around 845 CD came over again and stopped dead in his tracks when he saw all the moving boxes. He looked at me and said, "Where do you think you're going?" I thought that was hilarious. I told him that was his stuff, not mine. I told him our marriage was over, and since he took some of his stuff a few days ago when he walked out, he could go ahead and take the rest. He said he was staying here. I said, "Where did you stay the past few days?" He answered, "At Tom's." I looked at him and said, "Stop lying. We both know you were with your girlfriend." He swears he doesn't know what I'm talking about. He loves me and wants to fix our marriage. I said I thought you were only with me for the kids and planned to file for divorce on Monday. He asked me who told me that, and I said, "Obviously Jen." He went still and pale and asked, "Who's Jen?" I sighed and said, "I'm done. I'm so tired of your lies. I want a divorce. I want us to sit down and talk and agree on who gets what. I want to work on a schedule for the kids without going to court. But most of all, I want you out of the house and out of my face." He snorted, the mother effer snorted, and says, "Why should I make it easy for you?" I grabbed my phone and showed him a picture of the contents of his shoebox, because if we go to court I'm pretty sure you'd be screwed. He looked defeated, and all he managed to say was, "What about my transplant?" I told him his transplant is none of my business, and to call his parents, who are amazing people eager to help him. And just when I think he can't get any douchier, he tells me I can keep the house if I help him through his recovery. I told him to get the F out of my house before I throw his boxes in the front lawn and set them on fire. Finally he left. I'm sitting here nauseated, angry, hurt, wondering how I'm going to get through a lifetime of dealing with him for the sake of my kids. And wondering if he really did change, or if he's been like this all along. And I'm so angry at myself because I know I'm going to cry myself to sleep over a pathetic a-hole who doesn't deserve my tears. Final update. It's been a crazy few days. So much has happened. I've been calling my soon-to-be ex the cheating Dick, but that's too long, so I'll just call him Dick. Very appropriate. I think the day after Dick offered me the house in exchange for being his nurse for 3 months, he sent me a text. This would be Saturday, December 23rd, asking if we could talk. I told him yes, as long as he doesn't yell at me and he spends some time with the kids. He agreed. I told the kids Daddy was coming over and that I was going to get some coffee while they hung out. When Dick got there, he seemed genuinely happy to see the kids, but my son asked if he could go with me instead. I asked him why he wanted to go with me. He said, "Please, I'd rather not stay." Then my daughter said that she didn't want to stay around without her brother. Dick got mad and sent them to the room so that he and I could talk. Once again, he went from apologetic to angry to distraught to cruel. I tried to be calm, and I told him I really think he needs someone to talk to. I didn't want to use the word therapy. I pointed out that the last year has been traumatic and stressful, and he needed more support than I alone could provide. He said he'll go to therapy if I agree to be his caretaker. But he would only agree to see a marriage therapist. I said no. Our marriage is over, and no amount of therapy will change my mind. Also, the only thing that I'm willing to negotiate is the terms of a divorce. We went back and forth. He said he will never agree to a divorce. I said he doesn't have a choice. He said he would fight me for full custody. I said he could try, but I don't think he'll win. Then he said if he agreed to be my caretaker, I will sign the divorce papers, give you the house in full custody of the kids. I wanted to yank her wedding pictures off the wall and break them on his head. I said, if you really mean that, put it in writing. He left without saying bye to the kids. On Christmas Eve, I tried my best to continue with our family traditions. My son seems better. We baked cookies, and he helped me clean the kitchen. He started talking about how excited he is about starting high school next year. If you haven't been around a suicidal teen, you have no idea how huge this is. My son is talking about the future like he actually plans to be here. I wanted to cry, just sit there in the middle of the kitchen and bawl like a baby. We had a wonderful Christmas Eve, drinking hot chocolate and watching Arthur Christmas. Dick texted me to ask if he could come over the next day to exchange gifts with the kids. My son said okay as long as I don't leave the house. I relayed that information to Dick and he agreed. Christmas morning was awesome. My kids gave me a necklace with a see-through locket-type pendant with charms inside, a house, a car, 2 cats and stick figures of a boy and a girl with my kids' birthstones. I loved it. We went to church and dropped cookies off at the police station and fire department. Dick came over in the afternoon. It was okay. I'd already bought Dick a gift, so I told him he could have it after the kids opened their gifts. Dick said he needed to go to his den to get my gift. I told him he could go get it, but I didn't want it. He came back with it and said, "Trust me, you want this. It's big, so it's a Christmas/birthday gift." I opened it because my kids seemed to know what it was, and they were really excited. And screw that bastard to hell and back, because he gave me something I'm going to have a really hard time refusing. A trip to Vegas in February and 2 tickets to the Super Bowl. He knows my team has an excellent chance of making it to the Super Bowl this season. He also knows that the thing that I love the most after my family, friends and pets is my football team. And I know that he's going to insist on going with me. Afterwards, we talked some more and I told him I'm really worried about him. His mood swings were so severe that he's making people afraid, including his kids. He said he knows that he's starting to scare himself. I told him I don't understand why he won't let his mom help. He said he got it into his head that I am his wife, so I should be the one taking care of him. I asked him if he would reconsider letting his parents help. He said, "What if we wait the 6 months you asked for? Then when your sister comes to stay with the kids, you can go with me. Meanwhile, we can see a marriage therapist." I really don't know how to make him understand that I'm not going to change my mind about the divorce. I said, "I remember before we got married, we talked about how many kids we wanted. We picked baby names, and we agreed that our marriage could survive anything except 2 things. Do you remember that?" He didn't say anything, so I continued. "I told you I could forgive anything except any kind of abuse towards myself or my kids and infidelity. You felt the same way." He went to say good night to the kids. They all came back and the kids asked if Dad could spend the night. I didn't have the heart to say no, but I made it clear that he would stay in the guest room. He came to my room at night and tried to talk himself into our bed. Hell no. I asked him to leave and locked myself in. The next day, yesterday, he left for work and made a comment like, "I'll see you at dinner." I reminded him that the overnight stay was a one-time thing, and he had to find another place to stay. I had a super busy day. The first thing that I did was leave a message for Dick's social worker at the hospital and another for a local divorce attorney asking for an appointment ASAP. My kids went over to the neighbor's house while I went with Jen to the courthouse to file a restraining order. She'll be notified of the hearing date by my mail. I had called Shelley to see how things were going. She and Tom are working stuff out and she's staying with him. Best of luck to her. Then I went home and picked up my son for his therapy appointment. I asked for 5 minutes before their session started. I told the therapist almost everything that's happened. I asked him for the best way to tell my kids what's going on in an age-appropriate way. He said to tell them the truth without going into details and to let them ask questions. He called my son into the room and asked him, "Can I tell your mom some of what you've shared with me regarding your dad?" My heart sank. My son said, "I'll tell her." He turns to me and starts telling me that he has overheard his dad talking to another woman, that the conversations are inappropriate, and he has to make sure his sister is distracted while Dad is on the phone, but he thinks she knows because sometimes she gets really sad and asks if Daddy is on the phone again. He looked to his therapist for support, I guess because he kept going. The last time we spent time with Dad, he took us to a skateboarding park and then spent the entire time talking to a lady. When I came close, I heard him say we were his niece and nephew. I asked him why he said that, and he told me that I heard him wrong. But I didn't like the way he was talking to her. I thanked him for telling me. I stepped out and let them continue with their session. On our way home, I stopped at the hardware store for a deadbolt. Of course, when Dick tried to get in and couldn't, he threw a fit. He started kicking the door. I told him he was scaring the kids and I would have to call the cops. He left. About an hour later, I got a call from Jen saying Dick showed up at her place again and to continue begging. At this point, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do about all this, and I kind of wish that she would leave me out of it. I told her not to open the door and to call the police if he doesn't leave. I called my home security company to ask them about getting copies of my recordings from our doorbell and living room cameras in case I need them for court. Today I talked to a social worker. She told me Dick revoked my release of information so they can't talk to me about his medical information. I said that's fine. I told her about his extreme mid-shifts and that I would not be his caretaker. I told her I'm really worried about him because he's acting completely out of character. She said that she would schedule an appointment with him to see what's going on. I was able to also meet with a lawyer. She made time for me during her lunch hour. I'm going to file a restraining order, and if Dick gets violent again, I will call the cops and ask for psychiatric hold. The police might not do it, but at the least the police report would show that I requested one. I took my daughter to her first therapy session and told the therapist what's going on. She told me that she's going to communicate with my son's therapist so they're on the same page. They work for the same behavioral health center. I called my in-laws and told them everything. They said that they've been worried about him, but they figured it was nerves because he was about to get his transplant. But now they know he's been lying. They're coming to California to try to help. I'm not sure what they can do, but at the very least, I'm hoping they can take over dealing with this BS. I had a talk with my kids. It was the hardest thing that I've ever done. I explained to them that their dad and I don't get along anymore and we're getting a divorce. My daughter started crying and asked if it was because of the other ladies. I told her that's part of it, but Daddy also went through something very traumatic last year, and he hasn't been the same. He needs time to recover and decide if he wants to go back to the way that he was before. She asked me if he would come back home if he gets better, and I said no. My son said that he's scared of his dad and doesn't want to live with him. My daughter said the same. She also thinks it's her fault for not telling me about the other ladies. So that's another topic for her therapist. I told her it's absolutely not her fault. Whatever goes wrong between two married people is their fault alone. She asked what I did was wrong, and I told her it took me too long to realize how much Daddy had changed, and I didn't help him sooner. My son asked if we could move back east so we could be close to the family. I told him we needed to stay here for now so they can be close to Daddy, but we'll talk about it again in a few months. So I'm filing for divorce and I'm asking for full custody for the time being. Once Dick agrees to therapy and starts making some progress, we can revisit the custody agreement. I'm going to look for a smaller house for the kids and me. Dick loves this house, so he can keep it or we can sell it. I really don't care. I'm strangely numb. I found a therapist for myself. I start next week, and I'm glad that I'll have someone who can help me through this anyway. I think that about covers it. What a roller coaster this has been. I wasn't going to add this last update, but I figured since I dragged you into this drama, even if it's online, I owed it to you to tell you what's going on. Even if it's online, I owed it to you to tell you what's going on. Thank you for the support. It has helped more than you could possibly know.